Amberlei, great to see you. Thanks for making a bit of time to come on the podcast. I really appreciate that. I want to start with something that you said to me last time we spoke. You said it's a bit odd. I'm an introvert, but I'm building a dating site. Now, that does seem like an odd career choice. Just tell us about that. Why are you doing it, and why would an introvert want to build a dating site?
Well, someone had to do it. Someone
Yeah,
had to do
that's
it,
true.
Paul.
That's true.
Um, well, the truth is, I think most introverts are on dating apps anyway.
Okay.
Like it's easy to hide behind our screen. It's easy to swipe. It's easy to judge other people behind a screen
Yeah.
more harshly than we would in the real world, right? But the truth is, too, in the real world, when we meet people, those are the relationships we need to be seeking and working towards, because in the real world we're going to have that natural chemistry that you just like, oh my gosh, I just go down the drain when I think about this, because even like dating apps, the entire point is to get to the first date to see if there's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
connection, if there's chemistry. But in the real world, you've already skipped that step. You already know there's chemistry. You already feel the physiological sparks going off, the everything, the butterflies, the things that you're trying to get to on the dating app. So if you can just skip that part, you're winning. So the entire point is helping people get to real connections faster. And then when you're building those real connections faster, those are the ones that are going to last longer. Those are the ones that are going to add value to your life, not the ones that are leading to the ghosting and overwhelming and
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
how do we bring it back old school?
Yeah.
So
Now,
that's
let me just ask you about the introvert bit, though. I mean,
mhm,
you're absolutely right. Introverts go dating. I mean, I haven't been dating for a very long time, as I'm sure you can imagine, but I totally get that introverts will do that.
mhm.
Why is it that it's, I mean, why, I mean, you're developing a particular approach to helping people date. I mean, how do you in particular help introverts, though? I mean, what is it that you do that's different that helps introverts? Because there's a lot of us.
Yeah. So I'll just tell you like the two main ways that my app works that's different than anything else is that, every profile, every dating profile comes with a QR code. So right now you've got your LinkedIn, you've got your socials
Yeah.
that have QR codes. Well, that's different because when you're sharing that information, you're actually telling people where you work. You're showing people where you live. You're showing people where you
Yeah.
hang out. You're showing them personally identifiable information that you should be protecting. So it became, well, how do we make that a little safer? We introduced the QR code to the dating profile, right? So that lets you compartmentalize what you're doing. And then the hotspot feature lets you identify where singles are mingling. Like it could be a festival or a stadium or a
Okay.
restaurant or a bar or a bookstore. And then once you're there and you just check in, you see who in the room is single. So those two features alone, they could be great for extroverts, but they are primarily made for introverts as well. And I say that because, so the QR code feature, I'm a major introvert. And the way that I started using this, I made it up myself. And at first I was just like, okay, at first I've been seeing people do this too. I was putting my name and my phone number on a card. And on the other side, it would say, hey, you're cute, or hello, stranger. It'd
Right.
say something cheeky on one side, and I was giving out my phone number. Then guys started showing up at my door and delivering flowers, and that's a problem. And I would contact them. They'd have a number on the flowers, and I was like, how did you know where I lived? And they said, oh, I Googled your phone number. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
that's a problem.
Okay.
As a single mother with a little girl at home, I didn't want anybody coming to my door that I did not invite. So I quickly stopped giving out my phone number. And I realized I'm like, okay, well, if I can't give out my phone number, da da da, what do I do? So then it was like, oh, I'll just take a link and I'll connect it to a QR code and then I'll start putting it on cards. Easy peasy, easy day. That's what I'll do. And this was during COVID time too, when I realized people were putting QR codes on everything. So it only naturally made sense. It was on like menus and everything. So then I started handing them out in San Francisco to guys that I thought were attractive. And the results were crazy. Like the guys were like, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is so fun. No girls ever hit on me this way.
Yeah.
Like, this is so creative. And then girlfriends that I talked to about it were like, make me a site, like make me one. And I was like, no, like this is a lot of work. And then I was like, all right, there's clearly a need for this. Like I am not the only one who wants to connect in the real world, who's having a hard time doing it safely,
Yeah.
but I want to make it fun. Like I want to connect with that guy across the room, and I don't want to guess what side he's on. I don't want to miss the opportunity. I don't want to sit here and think, oh, he's probably not interested, or if he's interested, he'll approach me. You know, like all these things that we put into our heads that stop us from making that move. So that was how we like really, I pushed myself into doing this process. And then, I thought harder too. I really had to do a lot of internal thinking on all this because I was like, well, what are the things that hold me back? Like I realized I'm a major introvert, and what are the things that hold me back? I'll tell you, I was like, I don't know who in this room is single, and I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of walking up to a guy and
Okay.
them telling me like, oh, I have a girlfriend, or oh, I'm actually married and they're not wearing a ring or something like that. And I knew I wasn't alone. I was like, this is a real problem that other people have. So I started talking to my friends about it, and I'm like, what if we can identify on a map, what places have more people because they've checked in, and they've checked in for one or two reasons. They've checked in either because they want to make friends and they're new to town, or they want
Yeah.
to network
Yeah.
and they're alone, and they're not good at connecting, maybe, like I was. And then, or they're single. So then we put that together, and in the hotspot feature, it'll show you everyone in the room who's checked in. So I can say, okay, it's not a list of introverts, it's a list of people who want to connect,
Hmm.
at a common space. And it could be your favorite bar or wherever you've chosen to go to. But then I can click sort my preferences, and it'll show me who wants to, like, who's there for what I'm there for. If I'm single, if I put myself in single mode, it'll show who else is there to connect singly.
Okay.
Or if I'm there to make friends, because I was in the military for 20 years, and I'd have to move every 3 to 4 years. And when I had to move, I had to rebuild my entire life every time.
Yeah.
And being new and trying to build those, circles of trust, your little community is really hard. It's hard because, people grow up there, they have their little nest, and they're comfortable with their friends that they have. So it's hard for them to bring strangers into that. And it's not because they're rude or anything like that. It's just, this is my people, this is what I do. But when you don't have people, you're like, well, how do I find my people? So, you know, you'll notice too, there's a lot of emerging technologies. I'd say groups. There's a lot of emerging groups who are trying to achieve the same thing, but there hasn't been a technology yet for that. So that's where, radar QR comes in. And the whole point of that was like just following your radar, like when you're in a room full of people and you're attracted to somebody, following that radar. And again, that can be for friendships or networking and,
Mm.
those
So
kind of
there's lots of
relationships.
applications, as it were. You could use it for business as well as for dating.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Conferences, it's an ideal technology for a conference too, because, a lot of people go to conferences to make connections for networking, which makes perfect sense. But also, some people are single and they're excited to meet people and see who's in their field and who has, things in common with them. So it's a great opportunity to do that. And, I just went to Austin Tech Week not long ago,
Right.
and they had like all these social events afterwards. So even activating those venues that they used into, hotspot hubs would have been a lot of fun. So that's something we look forward to doing in the future.
Yeah, sure. So, in terms of one of the things that's interesting about what you're doing, I mean, I get the dating bit and I get the idea of going to a location. I mean, I get that. It's a really neat idea. But
Yeah.
it's very different from any of the other kind of dating stuff that's out there, as far as I can see. I'm not an expert
Mhm.
on it. But uh, so how does it feel kind of challenging the status quo? Because this is a very different approach. That was part of the thing that attracted me to it. It's a very different sort of spin on dating, if you like. I mean, how
Yeah.
does that feel doing it so differently?
It's exciting. Like it keeps me up at night. It should be scary. Your dream should scare you, they say, right? And
Right.
and this one does, because it is so out of the box, and that's what's fun about it. When you tell people about it, the brand knowledge and awareness in the beginning is the hardest part because this hasn't existed. So, you're really changing behavior. You're changing a lot of things and making people aware of a new possibility. When I explain it to people and it hits, they're like, "Oh my God, this is brilliant. We needed this." But before they understand it, you get those questions like, "What? Like I'm not swiping?" And then you're leading them into the thought, and then they're like, "Oh." So, it's a lot of fun. For me, like, Steve Jobs, he was one of my like professional guys that I've looked up to. And I think that he had so many great points in just like staying hungry and staying focused and almost scaring yourself because the iPhone, like I have this, you can't see it, but I have this phone on my wall and it's from probably like, it's like one of the first phones. It's like those big wooden ones with the
Right.
thing and the
Yeah, yeah,
wire and everything. And it's amazing how we have moved from that to the cell
yeah.
phone, right? Like I have an 11-year-old daughter too, and she's like, "What is this thing?" When I brought it into the house, and I'm like, "The iPhone has transitioned from this to this." Like,
Yeah.
so changing. This is literally what we're doing. We're taking the old script, the old dating app, it came out in I want to say 2014, 2007, like the dating app perspective, bringing all this from online into the apps and then to where we are now. Things are transitioning and they're moving pretty quickly. This idea came to mind during COVID, like it stated, and we're seeing now a lot of trends that are emerging and they're social groups because
Yeah.
people realize people are tired of online. Like we're done. Like people are just fed up. And I think it's a matter of time before the mainstream, Match.com and Bumble and Badoo and everybody start to realize we gotta do something different. So we know they're getting a little bit away from swipe because they're doing like in real life events. But with our technology, we're making every day an event at, these venues for businesses that need customers too. So it kind of becomes a win-win of helping other,
Yeah.
our local
And
communities.
I mean, you come from a military background. Do you think that your military training sort of helped you kind of go run against the tide, helped you kind of go against the conventional wisdom, challenge the status quo? I mean, is there something in your military background that made you kind of push against those things, do you think?
I'd say possibly. I've always been a little stubborn. I've always been very stubborn. So
Right,
we'll start
okay.
with that. And I remember in the military, I've had a lot of leaders who are like, "You've got some great ideas, but until you're the senior person in the room, keep them in your pocket." But I never did. Like, I don't know. I've always just been the person who's like, "But actually," and I would just bring it out. So I don't know if it has to do with the military, but I can tell you.
Maybe it's just about you.
Oh, it's not about me. I think it all goes together. I think it's a matter of, maybe my childhood too. Like I came from a wild childhood. Like I was an orphan until I was 12. And I think that independence was just
Mm.
very much like, okay, I'll figure it out. Like I've always had that. So for me, that just,
I mean, it's not
um,
ideal for being an entrepreneur, that kind of mindset, isn't it?
yeah, you have to. Like being an entrepreneur, it was something I never thought of. I know some people grow up and they're like, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur when I grow up. Like some people really they have a concept of all of that. That never was my goal. That never was my background. It just very much I had a lot of really great mentors in the military
Mhm.
who just really opened my mindset in a lot of different ways about different things, whether it was political or personal. And many of them are still my friends today. There's some of them are my advisors to my company today. So, um,
Yeah, good stuff.
yeah,
So let me ask, so you've got this brilliant concept. I mean, I think it's very different from anything else
thank you,
that's out there. And I
Paul.
think it's got lots of applications. I mean, we were just talking about that before we started the
Thank you.
podcast. I mean, how are you going to make it happen? I mean, I know you're a fair way down the track now, but I mean, tell us about where you want to get to with this. I mean, what would be, I mean, this is not the right way to describe it, but the end state, as it were. What's the outcome you want to get to? What is it you want to achieve?
I mean, the ultimate goal is having this technology available at, I'd say, the biggest events happening, across. Right now, we're focused on the United States, and then we'll be going, global, we'll hit other countries. But right now it's, major success for us looks like having our festivals and concerts and
Mm.
stadiums activated, like the really big events like that, because never in the world has it been possible to go to your favorite football game and check in and be like, hey, you're really cute. Like meet me for a beer, like let's grab a beer, let's talk after the game, let's whatever, let's connect. Or to make a friend, like, hey, I'm over here, come sit with me, figuring those things out, making those social connections in a mainstream space with bigger groups would be a lot of fun because you already have all of these people in the same
Yeah.
area who are interested in something that you are. So your commonality, it's there. So how do we bring down the social barriers?
Yeah. And in terms of trying to achieve that goal, I mean, that's a pretty ambitious, there are a lot of venues out there. There's a lot of big things going
Too
on
many.
just in the US with that, we've got loads of stuff going on, I mean, there's a lot going
Mhm.
on. I mean, how are you going to, I mean, one of the things that is interesting about entrepreneurship is you have to get people on board with you. Because, you've got to get the right people on the bus. I mean, how are you going to bring people together to help you achieve that? Because it's a big vision. I don't really like the word vision, but it's a big ambition. I mean, how are you going to get people on board to help you?
So we've got strategy and operations here on the ground in Houston. So we work together to kind of come up with different plans for different sized events and different sized partnership opportunities. So, at first it's a cold call, it's a cold email, then it's a
Right.
it's a face to face. I'm knocking on doors. Like that's literally how it starts with a bootstrap company, and you're something totally new that no one's ever heard about. You're knocking on doors, you're trying to get a meet and greet, you're learning about people, and you're like, this is their favorite coffee shop. I'm going to go buy them coffee and I'm going to ask for 2 minutes of their time. And I'm going to tell them why this technology can change the user experience and make it better for them, and bring people through their door. It's not all about,
Yeah.
that's the thing too. It gets really tricky when I talk about the entire technology because I get excited about what it does for the customer, like on my side, like it helps your people connect, da 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 da. But I have to remember the businesses, they don't care about that part. They care about how it brings people through their door. So I have to get excited about that when I'm talking to
Yeah.
them. So yeah, I have to really channel.
And that's one of the things I think is so different because it's a way of getting people all to go to the same place, or at least if they think that's a good place to meet the kind of people I want to meet, that's where they'll
Yeah,
go. So it
yeah.
drives traffic to different physical venues, doesn't it? Which is what's so different about what you're offering compared to most of the other apps.
I get so excited about this. Yeah, and we just put in like events for our map. So another problem that we have literally everywhere, which drives me insane. Like even to this day, I can sit at home and be like, I wonder what, the local bar down the road, what live band they have tonight.
Mm.
There's no way of knowing because businesses, they'll post like in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, come see so and so on stage. And you're like, yeah, well, what's happening tonight? And unless they're doing a meet, like, what is it, Eventbrite, which people don't do for live music. They don't do Eventbrites for their normal everyday events. So you have no idea what's happening anywhere around you ever. So that's another thing that we put into it that owners they can own it themselves. They can manage it live. If somebody cancels, they can change it right away. So that's another tool that we put in for me being selfish. I just really want to know where the music is. And I know other people did too,
Mm.
but also for the business, right? Like bringing those people and making them aware live. So there hasn't been a real time, this is what's happening, this is where people are kind of platform. So that's what was missing.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things about building a business in that situation is, I mean, you've got technology that can do multiple things.
Mhm.
One of the things that's challenging, I think, is that part of what you've got to do is decide, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to do that. How do you, as the CEO, how do you kind of figure out a way through all the distractions and all the 101 things you could do to focus on the things that you are doing? I mean, how did you figure out that way forward? Because you've made some really interesting choices, but you could have done a billion other things, I guess.
I have a list of a billion other things to do.
Yeah, I'm sure,
I'll
yeah.
tell you. But we do have to sort through that list every week. Every week we sit down and we look at it again and we're like, okay, Where are we at? Where are we going? What are we doing? And the primary thing right now, we're trying to get in front of funding, like major funding right now. So, excuse me, even I believe it was Bumble started with $10 million in their pocket. Whitney was given $10 million and they were like, go make this happen. That didn't happen for me. That didn't happen at all. I've used all of my money to make this happen. And I retired from the military to focus 1000% on this. So everything did have to be very strategically prioritized in what comes first. And getting to funding was number one. So the first things that I focused on were network effect related. What is going to really help us grow, it's like quickly and user base, and then also make it fun. Because if it's not fun, it becomes stagnant. And this doesn't mean gamification in any way. It just means like, how do we make it social in a way that is helping people connect? So like the QR code, every time you share it, that's a new user onto the platform, but also a new real world connection. And you can add close friends. Every time you tag a close friend at a hotspot, you're leading more people who view those photos at hotspots to your profile. So you're playing matchmaker, right? So it was a lot of different strategic network effect things that also help bring more customers through the doors. So it became I almost had like these two big bubbles with an overlapping area, of what's for the customer, what's for the business, and what's for the network.
Yeah. One of the other things that's interesting at the moment about building businesses right now is the fact that AI is really sort of enabling lots of things to evolve because it does stuff that humans can't do. So it's enabling all sorts of areas to evolve really quickly. I mean, what's your feeling about keeping up with that pace of change? I mean, I don't think, I mean, it seems to me that things are changing so rapidly. I don't think I've ever seen this kind of rapid change. I mean, how do you view that kind of really fast evolution of technology that's happening at the moment? And how are you keeping up with it?
Yeah. So while we have artificial intelligence, we have to remember we have actual intelligence too.
Yeah.
So I tell people all the time that, my platform, in the military, I was an intelligence officer. So I have always been hyper aware of AI and the things that it can do and will do. And I was very, very mindful not to let it be the priority in our platform. So it is something that we have. We call our agent RAD. Yeah,
Okay.
agent is RAD,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's gender neutral, so it could be guy or girl. But RAD helps in real world situations. That's how we're using AI. So you could use it as a confidant, hypothetically in the platform. And you could just be like, hey, I'm at the gym. How do I approach this guy? Like, because,
Okay.
we want to give introverts, right? We want to help
Yeah.
them have that wingman there by their side of how to bridge the two worlds and make these real world connections that are really hard to do. Like, short story. I'll tell you, I remember before I even had this idea of this platform, I had a gym crush and I called him my gym boyfriend. And I would go to the gym every day at the same time. We would work out next to each other. We would stretch next to each other. It was like in sync, but we'd never talk to each other. And I just kept thinking, like, one day he's going to talk to me. One day he's going to talk to me. And then I don't know if he thought the same thing. I found out like 10 months down the road because I had just literally never said anything. I told a friend of mine came to the gym and I was like, there's my gym boyfriend. And he was like, oh, he's married. And I was like, dang it. Like, I wouldn't have known that. And I was like, if only we could have checked in and seen who's single
Yeah.
here. I was like, that would have been great. But I'm glad I didn't say anything to him. So, but the vibes were there. The vibes were there.
Yeah, 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 and it's interesting how this technology could help with that, isn't it? Because that's something that's really new, actually. Um,
hmm
Let me ask you another question about the kind of current situation. I mean, presumably your technology is also generating lots of data
Yes.
that you will presumably use to inform decisions about the way forward. I mean, that's what lots of CEOs
Yeah.
are saying to me. People are getting very excited about all the data that's being produced,
Yeah.
and that's a good
Yeah.
thing. I'm not knocking that. What
Yeah.
about the role for kind of gut and intuition in those decision-making processes? I mean, how do you see that as the CEO? Are you very data-driven, or are you more of a gut decision kind of person? My guess is data-driven. Would that be fair?
I was an analyst, so I am data driven. You do have to look at the numbers and you have to look at the
Mm.
information because that's what's real, right? I mean, other data that you can't measure is, real customer opinion and data, those conversations. So like I'm in the process of calling our users and just, hey, you downloaded this app a long time ago. How do you feel about it? How have you used it? What has been helpful?
And
What has been hard?
what sort of things have you learned from doing that? Because I don't hear many CEOs say they're actually calling users up. I mean, what have you
Yeah.
learned from that? What's the experience been like?
I think I got hung up on once and then I called them back and they're like, I thought you were a spammer. Like I thought, like, why would the founder call me? So sometimes that happens, but a lot of the feedback that we've gotten is, some people don't understand it yet. So that's very helpful for me as a founder because, the brand knowledge, how are we different? That's something I need to communicate more in our marketing and our messaging. So that was really helpful to hear. One person, a lot of people say like they're just not sure what to do. They're like, well, like because we do have a swiping area as well,
Right.
and you can swipe, but they don't know how to use the hotspot. They don't know how to maximize that QR part, and that's where things really get fun. So I'm glad I've called and talked to these people, and like every week we're setting up a like I'd say it's like a meet and greet kind of thing, meet and greet with the
Yeah. At
founder
one of the
call.
hotspots, presumably.
Yeah, well, different places, but we have one here in Houston in the next 2 weeks at a hotspot where we're gonna like click through with people and show them how it works. But sometimes it's just virtually too. And like, hey, let me show you some of the fun features and like what this does. And we've done a couple of those already, and people are like, why didn't I know this? Like, this is so great. I'm gonna go tell my friends, which is really good. That's a network effect. That's what you want. But it's not ideal to go and have these, all the time. But in the early stages, this is sometimes how it goes, to get that cold start moving.
Mm. And you know, I think the other thing that interests me about what you're doing is you're building a business that's all about people and the way people react to other people. But
Hmm.
you're building it in what I would describe as the social media age, when anyone can go onto Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever and comment about what's happening. I mean, how do you feel about, I mean, you're building a business in this kind of environment where there's such a lot of scrutiny? I mean, when I started in business 40 years ago, I mean, it was totally different.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you feel about that scrutiny piece?
I think it's good. I think you need that. I think as a leader, as a founder, as anybody trying to be successful, you need someone to poke holes in your theories. You need someone to challenge you. And because those are the things that if you're owning a business and you're trying to build something, you need that feedback. I would almost hire that person. Like, please come work for me. Come be my, what do they call it? Devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, red
yeah,
team.
like you need that. That's the people who are on my advisory board. That's why they're there because they challenge me. I'm not going to bring in somebody who's nice to me. Like, I need you to challenge my thought process on things. So
Yeah. And is
those are
that,
good.
I mean, is that process part of, is that making you stronger as a CEO? I mean, I'm just thinking about the journey that you've been on. I mean, would you say you've changed on that journey?
I think so. I remember as a young officer apply like when I was applying to become an officer, I remember one of the leads of the board saying, I just think you're too nice. And I was like, excuse me, I'm not nice. And then, I really thought about that and I kind of buckled in a little bit more on how I felt and being more passionate about how I feel about things and not smoothing the answer to what people wanted to hear. And that made me a challenging officer, but it made me a very strong officer. And I think, bringing that military into civilian world, I think that makes me a strong leader. I think that makes me somebody great to work for and with.
Yeah. And if you think about the journey that you've been, I mean, has the business, I mean, I call them sort of inflection points when you're going along and all of a sudden you come up to sort of a crossroads. You know, do I go this way or do I go that way? Have you ever had moments like that when you've thought, I'm not sure which way to jump?
Yeah, yeah, I have. And they happen daily. They
Oh,
happen
right.
daily.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Give us some
So,
examples. What sort of things have happened?
I mean, it could be anything. It could be literally just designing a banner, because every hotspot has a banner, or it could be a matter of, which city is going to be next for opening a venue and why, and strategically what area, because, I don't live in every town that we open.
Yeah.
Um, when I opened the Houston market, I lived 2 hours away and I wasn't familiar with Houston. So it became a lot of, research that way. And then I, came up, did a lot of boots on the ground. I moved here. I moved to Houston because it was my launch city and my pivot city. It's the second largest tech capital in the US. And I know I can learn a lot here. And I'm like, if I can tackle that market, then we're going to be easy to open doors in smaller ones. But going after something big and aggressive first,
Mm.
it's not always a bad thing.
Yeah. And has that pushed you, do you feel?
It's challenged and pushed me. Yeah. And I'm home with a little one. She's 11, but it keeps me very busy. So
Yeah.
balancing, personal life, work life, mother, parenting, school, all that stuff on top of opening an entire market, it all pushes you mentally for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can believe it. That sounds like quite a tough job, actually. And presumably you enjoy it, though. I mean, what is it you enjoy about that?
I love working with people. I love helping people. I love the conversations. And it's funny, like I was talking to someone the other day, they're like, what does your work day look like? I'm like, I have no idea because every day can be so, so different. I could literally be out talking to hotspot venues all day. I could be out scouting a new area. I could be talking to college kids. I could be interviewing people on the street, or I could be at home checking emails. Like my day looks very different every day. And as a founder, if you're not hitting the streets and doing the dirty work and out there, boots on the ground, then you're not learning a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
And
how I feel.
one of the things that I like about entrepreneurs is that they're fairly quick to identify when something's not working and change tack. You know, if they you know if you're an entrepreneur, if you don't fix problems, you will very quickly go out of business. So they're usually pretty good at kind of identifying and fixing problems. I mean, what's your feeling about that? Are you very focused on identifying things that aren't working? I mean, what's your modus operandi in relation to things like that?
I'm very keen on that and I'm very focused on that. You have to be, or you will die, exactly like you said.
Hmm.
So, right now, like I said, we opened the Houston market, and with that, the brand knowledge and helping businesses understand how it helps them has been our primary focus right now because we realize that's kind of where our bottleneck has been. We can open a hotspot, but if they don't promote that they're a hotspot
Yeah.
or put it anywhere on anything, while we're bringing customers to them, they don't recognize it there sometimes, because they can walk in and be like, okay, I see it on the map, but nobody's here because nobody's checked in, because nobody
Mm.
promoted or nobody put the sign out. It's a two-part thing. So we bring customers to you, but you also have to, you know, give that in return and say, yes, we're a hotspot.
And
So
have those venues? I mean, how have they responded on the whole? I mean, I would have thought they'd be quite positive about that.
they love it. Like hotspots are excited to be on the map because it becomes a thing. You're either on the map or you're not. And if you're not on the map, people will not see your live counts going on. They won't see your events or any of those things. So you're not bringing traffic through your doors if you're not acknowledging
Mm.
the hotspot sign at your venue. So once they understand, we literally just launched a new version on the iOS. I want to say today because I saw an email this morning, so it should be out today, which lists gives them the capability to post events and to be ranked as top spots and things like that. So that is something that I now need to go and let them know, like, hey, you can now post events, and this is how you do it. So I'm going to literally be going into everybody's doors within the next 2 weeks, having those conversations with them. Because we just launched I want to say April or May of last year. And some of the feedback we got from venues was we have all of these events and no one ever comes. We're dead on Tuesdays. We're dead on Wednesdays. We're dead on like we're losing business and we want to show live events. So we went back to the drawing board. We made that happen and it went live. So it literally went live like this morning.
Wow, wow. You must be
Yeah,
feeling
so we're
good about
excited
that.
to go start that. But again, that's the brand awareness and knowledge of the tool that, working together. So once they realize they have that power, then they can go and they have something
Yeah,
exciting to incentivize their users for checking in.
yeah. So let me ask you about your experiences of, what you've learned from the journey that you've been on. I mean, you obviously had a career in the military first, and then you decided to set this up. I mean, when you reflect back on that journey, I mean, is there anything that you know now that you wish you'd known at the beginning? I mean, how do you feel about the journey?
Mm, no, now that I wish I knew then. I think I wish I knew how lonely it could be.
Right.
Um, because in the military we had camaraderie. There's hundreds, sometimes thousands of people on one single base. And that was just very different. And being an entrepreneur, it's very lonely. And I've always heard it's lonely at the top. Well, it's not that I'm at the top because I put myself next to everybody in my team. It's just a matter of that emotional and mental state changes. It just changes
Mm.
very drastically, which for me too, Paul, I think that's why it's so important for me to get out of the house and out of the office
Yeah.
and into hotspots and, connecting with people. I'm a people person. Despite being an extrovert, I tell people I'm an intra extra, like I'm extra intra, I don't know. But I love talking to people. So if I knew how lonely it would be, I think I don't know if I would have, if there's a way to do it differently as an entrepreneur, like
I
we
was
do the
about I was
networking
about to ask you that.
events.
Is there anything you'd have done differently as a result?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything I could. I don't know at this time. I do networking events, I'm always out of the house connecting with my hotspots and people. So I wish I knew how lonely it would have been.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And if you were, I mean, have you had any really good advice from people? You talked about your advisory board. I mean, have you had any really good advice along the way that you thought, oh God, that's really going to help?
I get a lot of it. The people on my team are really great. One of my favorite guys, he's out in Paris actually, and he's my network effects man. And he's just amazing at what he does. And yeah, I like the fact that I can, set up a call with him and unpack a thought. And he's like, okay, so then what? Then what? Then what? Then what? We boil it down to the why and then what?
Mhm.
And for me, nothing stands out in particular because it's everything. Like we go down so many rabbit holes, Paul, that
Mhm.
you'd be like, how did this conversation start out here and now it's here?
I think a
And then
lot of
I'm like,
entrepreneurs
I'm
would say
hitting the
that.
ground at that point.
Yeah.
And this happens every week. So,
Yeah, I think a
yeah,
lot of entrepreneurs would say that. And if you were to give some advice to an entrepreneur, a rookie entrepreneur, rookie CEO, somebody just starting out, I mean, what would you tell them? What one piece of advice would you give them?
I would say you can. And that's because like I mean, that was something that really led me through everything too was when I brought this idea to somebody, I'll tell you that quick story too in a second. But when I first thought of this idea and I talked to someone who was in tech about it, they're like, oh, you can't do that. And then I was like, actually, I can. Okay. So I went and did it. And then I showed them. And then they were like, oh, that's brilliant. I want in. And I was like, no, bye. So, and then we went and got 20 patents for it. So the fact that somebody was like, you can't do that. And I was like, okay, now I have to.
Mm.
So, and that becomes a thing on everything with an entrepreneur is everything feels like a mountain. Like everything feels like, oh, I don't actually know if I can do that. And it's like, oh, you can. Like, you just got to find out how. There's not, I think it was like Einstein or something, like there's a billion ways to learn how to do it differently, right? So there's no failure, just a thousand ways to do it differently.
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be my thing.
Yeah,
You can,
I think that's really good advice actually, because what you're talking about is a mindset thing. It's about saying I can figure out a way to solve this problem or
Mhm.
overcome this obstacle or challenge or whatever. And I think that's, again, to come back to one of the things I really like about entrepreneurs is they pretty much all have that kind of mindset. I mean, people are different, obviously, but and
Yeah.
that's what makes them such an it makes it such an interesting world to be in because people are really good at figuring out ways through things, and you don't see that in some other sectors, not as much anyway, which is nice about. So,
Yeah, sometimes I joke that I'm MacGyver. I'm like, I'll just figure it out.
Amberley, thank you for taking a bit of time to come and have a chat with us. I mean, a fascinating story and a really brilliant proposition. I mean, I think it's just so different to anything else that's out there. I mean, it's really innovative and,
Thank
well
you.
done actually on taking
Thank
it
you
to
so
where
much.
you've got to
Thank you for
because it's,
having me.
it's such a
Thank you so
great
much for,
proposition. Right.
yeah, thank
See
you
you
so
again
much.
soon.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Cheers, Amberley. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.